Ladies, let me talk to you for a moment. You can't heal what you don't understand. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. Many women struggle in relationships not because they are weak, but because they don't know what weakens a man. Today, I want to reveal 6 key weaknesses that every woman needs to know. Because if you understand these, you'll know how to build up the man in your life instead of watching him crumble under the weight of his own struggles. Men are wired to perform, to achieve, to provide, and to succeed. From the time they are boys, they are taught that their worth is measured by their ability to produce results. Society, family, and even the church often place expectations on men that can feel unbearable. If he doesn't make enough money, if he can't provide the lifestyle his family desires, if he struggles to keep up with the demands of life, he begins to feel like he is failing, not just at a job, but at manhood itself. This weight is heavy, and for many men, it becomes an invisible burden that they carry every single day. A man's pressure to perform is not just about money. It's about identity. He wants to be respected. He wants to be seen as strong. He wants to be valued, not just for what he does, but for who he is. But when all the world seems to measure him by his accomplishments, he feels like if he stops performing, he stops being worthy. This is why so many men work themselves to exhaustion, pushing past their limits, sacrificing their health, their peace, and even their families just to prove that they are enough. For a woman in his life, whether a wife, girlfriend, sister, or mother, understanding this pressure is crucial. Because if you don't, you may mistake his distance for disinterest. You may see his silence and assume he doesn't care. But what if I told you he isn't pulling away because he doesn't love you? What if he's pulling away because he doesn't know how to tell you that he feels like he's failing? A man who feels like he is not enough will often suffer in silence because he has been taught that vulnerability is weakness. He doesn't want to burden you with his struggles. He doesn't want you to see his fear. So instead of expressing his pain, he hides it. Instead of asking for help, he isolates. Instead of crying out, he shuts down. And here is where the power of a wise woman comes in. A woman who understands this pressure will not add to the weight. She will help lift it. She won't constantly remind him of what he lacks. She will remind him of who he is. She will speak life into him when the world speaks pressure. She will remind him that his worth is not in his paycheck, his title, or his success, but in the God who created him. Sometimes all a man needs is to know that he is loved, respected, and valued even when he's not performing at his best. He needs to know that if he loses the job, he won't lose your respect. That if he struggles, he won't lose your support. That if he stumbles, he won't lose your love. When a woman becomes a safe place for a man, when she reassures him that he is more than his performance, she gives him the freedom to breathe, to grow, and to truly be the man God created him to be. From a young age, men are taught to be strong, to be tough, to hold everything together. They hear phrases like, man up, real men don't cry, and handle it like a man. The world conditions them to believe that expressing emotions is a sign of weakness, that showing vulnerability makes them less masculine. As a result, many men build walls around their hearts, learning to suppress their emotions rather than share them. They carry silent struggles, unspoken fears, and hidden pain because they have been told that opening up will make them look weak. But here's the truth. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength. It takes incredible courage for a man to be honest about his feelings, his fears, and his struggles. Yet many men fear that if they expose their true selves, they will be judged, ridiculed, or even abandoned. They worry that if they admit they are struggling, they will no longer be respected. This fear creates an emotional prison where a man suffers in silence rather than risk being misunderstood. For women in their lives, this fear of vulnerability can sometimes be mistaken for indifference. When a man doesn't open up, it may seem like he doesn't care. When he is silent, it may feel like he is distant. But what if he's not distant at all? What if he desperately wants to share his heart but doesn't know how? What if every time he tried to be vulnerable in the past, he was met with criticism instead of comfort? Many men have learned the hard way that their emotions are not always safe to share. so they choose to keep them buried. This is where a wise woman can make all the difference. A woman who understands the fear of vulnerability will create an atmosphere where a man feels safe to express himself. She won't mock his emotions, minimize his feelings, or dismiss his struggles. Instead, she will listen, truly listen, without judgment. She will reassure him that his fears, his doubts, and even his failures do not make him any less of a man. She will remind him that strength is not in hiding, but in honesty. If a man senses that opening up will lead to criticism or rejection, he will shut down. But if he knows that his heart is safe with you, he will begin to let down his guard. He needs to know that his tears won't make you see him as weak, that his fears won't make you lose respect for him, that his struggles won't push you away. When a woman creates a space where a man can be vulnerable without fear, she gives him permission to heal, to grow, and to love more deeply. Men may not always express their emotions the way women do, but they feel just as deeply. They need reassurance, support, and understanding just like anyone else. When a man finds a place where he can be vulnerable without fear, he is able to embrace his true self, not just for the world, but for the woman who stands beside him. Temptation is a battle that every man faces, whether he acknowledges it or not. It is not just about lust or physical desires. It is the pull toward anything that threatens to compromise his integrity, his values, or his purpose. Temptation comes in many forms: the desire for power, the lure of success at any cost, the craving for validation, and yes, the struggles of the flesh. Every man, no matter how strong, will find himself standing at the crossroads of decision, forced to choose between what feels good in the moment and what is right in the eyes of God. The world today is designed to feed temptation. From social media to television, from the workplace to casual conversations, men are constantly bombarded with images, ideas, and opportunities that challenge their discipline. A man does not have to go looking for temptation. It finds him. And if he is not spiritually grounded, if he does not have accountability, if he is not constantly renewing his mind, he can fall into the trap set before him. One of the greatest lies the enemy tells a man is that he is strong enough to handle temptation on his own, that he can flirt with danger and not get burned, that he can entertain destructive thoughts and never act on them. But Scripture teaches us in 1 Corinthians 10:12, so if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. Even the strongest men in the Bible, David, Samson, Solomon, fell because they underestimated the power of temptation. For a woman, understanding this battle is crucial. A wise woman does not ignore the reality of temptation, nor does she condemn a man for struggling with it. Instead, she becomes his ally, his covering, his partner in the fight. She prays for him when he is weak, encourages him when he feels tempted, and reminds him of who he is in Christ. She does not belittle him for his struggles, but strengthens him to overcome them. A man who is battling temptation does not need a judge, he needs an intercessor. He needs a woman who will call on God on his behalf, who will speak life over him, who will remind him of his purpose when distractions try to pull him away. The truth is, a man can resist temptation when he is armed with the right weapons: prayer, accountability, and the Word of God. But if he is left alone in the fight, without guidance, without support, without someone reminding him of the standard he is called to, he is more vulnerable to fall. Temptation does not define a man. How he responds to it does. A strong man is not one who never faces temptation. He is one who knows how to resist it. And a wise woman is one who does not use a man's struggle against him, but instead stands beside him, helping him rise above it. When a man knows he has a woman who is for him, praying for him, and fighting with him, he gains the strength to resist temptation and walk in the purpose God has set before him. Every man carries wounds, some visible, others hidden deep within his soul. These wounds may not always be talked about, but they shape the way he sees himself, the way he loves, and the way he interacts with the world. Some wounds come from childhood: an absent father, a critical mother, a lack of affirmation. Others come from life's disappointments: betrayal, failure, heartbreak, and rejection. These wounds do not simply go away with time. They linger, they fester, and if left unhealed, they influence every aspect of a man's life. Many men are walking around wounded but don't even realize it. They have become so used to suppressing their pain that they mistake their numbness for strength. Society has told them that expressing pain is weakness, so instead of addressing their wounds, they bury them. But buried wounds do not disappear. They manifest in different ways. They show up as anger, defensiveness, emotional distance, trust issues, or even destructive behaviors. Some men struggle to love because they were never truly loved. Some men battle with insecurity because they were constantly told they weren't enough. Some men push people away because they have been abandoned before and would rather leave first than be left again. The weight of unhealed wounds is heavy, and many men carry it silently. They may not talk about the pain, but it influences their decisions, their relationships, and their ability to move forward. A man who has been hurt deeply will often build walls around his heart, not because he doesn't want to love, but because he's afraid of being hurt again. He may resist vulnerability, not because he doesn't care, but because opening up reminds him of the times he was let down. He may lash out, not because he is naturally angry, but because he has unresolved pain that has nowhere else to go. For a woman, understanding this reality is crucial. A wise woman does not take a man's wounds personally. She sees beyond his reactions and recognizes the pain that fuels them. She does not try to fix him because healing is not something she can force. But she creates a space where healing can happen. She is patient, knowing that trust takes time. She is compassionate, offering love that does not condemn. She is prayerful, lifting him up before God, because some wounds are too deep for human hands to heal. Men need healing just as much as women do, but many have been conditioned to believe that they must carry their wounds alone. This is why so many suffer in silence, pretending to be okay while their hearts are breaking. But healing begins when a man acknowledges his pain and allows himself to confront it. It happens when he realizes that his past does not define his future. It happens when he stops running from his wounds and starts facing them with courage. And when a man finally finds the strength to heal, he becomes not only a better man, but a better partner, father, and leader. Pride and ego are among the greatest traps that can ensnare a man, holding him back from growth, healing, and meaningful relationships. While confidence is necessary, unchecked pride can become a prison. It can make a man resistant to correction, blind to his weaknesses, and unwilling to ask for help, even when he desperately needs it. Pride whispers in his ear that he must always have the answers, that admitting failure makes him weak, and that vulnerability is a threat to his identity. Over time, this mindset can lead to isolation, broken relationships, and missed opportunities for personal and spiritual development. Many men struggle with pride because they have been conditioned to believe that their worth is tied to their ability to be in control. From childhood, they are taught to be strong, to never show weakness, to always have the upper hand. The world tells them that a real man never backs down, never apologizes, and never depends on anyone. But this kind of thinking is dangerous because it creates a man who would rather suffer in silence than admit he needs help. It builds a man who would rather lose a relationship than acknowledge his faults. It turns him into someone who sees correction as criticism rather than an opportunity to grow. Pride can destroy friendships, marriages, and even a man's relationship with God. When a man is too proud to listen, he stops learning. When he's too proud to apologize, he damages trust. When he is too proud to seek help, he remains stuck in the same cycles of struggle. Proverbs 16:18 warns us, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. A man who refuses to humble himself will eventually be humbled by life because pride always leads to downfall. For a woman, dealing with a man trapped by pride and ego can be frustrating. It can feel like he is shutting her out, dismissing her feelings, or refusing to acknowledge when he is wrong. But a wise woman understands that pride is often a defense mechanism, a shield that protects a man from feeling inadequate or exposed. Instead of confronting him with harshness, she approaches with wisdom. Instead of attacking his pride, she speaks to his potential. She understands that behind the pride is often fear. The fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, the fear of losing respect. The key to helping a man escape the trap of pride is patience and encouragement. A woman who wants to see a man grow does not shame him for his ego, but reminds him of the strength found in humility. She leads by example, showing that admitting fault is not weakness but wisdom. She reassures him that he does not have to carry every burden alone, that seeking counsel is not a sign of failure but a path to success. A truly strong man is not the one who is always right, but the one who is willing to learn, to change, and to grow. And when a man learns to humble himself, he gains something far greater than pride. He gains wisdom, deeper relationships, and a life that is led by purpose rather than ego. A man is often expected to be both a loving partner and a strong leader, but balancing these two roles can be one of his greatest struggles. Society, culture, and even religious teachings place a heavy expectation on men to lead, to be the head of the household, to provide, to make decisions, and to ensure stability. At the same time, he is also expected to be emotionally available, understanding, and affectionate. These two responsibilities are not contradictory, but for many men they can feel like opposing forces. How can he be strong and tender at the same time? How can he lead with authority while also showing vulnerability? This delicate balance is one that many men wrestle with throughout their lives. Leadership requires decisiveness, direction, and discipline. A man who takes his leadership role seriously feels the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He wants to provide, protect, and create a future for those he loves. He feels the pressure to make the right choices, to guide his family in the right direction, and to be the rock that others can depend on. But in the midst of leading, he may struggle with expressing love in the way his partner needs. He may become so focused on his duties that he unintentionally neglects the emotional connection that relationships require. On the other hand, love requires patience, gentleness, and emotional presence. A man who desires to love deeply must learn to listen, to nurture, and to create a safe space for emotional intimacy. However, if he focuses too much on pleasing his partner and being emotionally available, he may fear losing his authority as a leader. He may struggle with setting boundaries, making tough decisions, or standing firm in his convictions. He does not want to come across as weak, but at the same time, he does not want to appear cold or distant. For a woman, understanding this internal battle is crucial. Many women desire a man who leads with strength but also loves with tenderness. However, if a man feels that no matter what he does, he cannot get the balance right, he may begin to withdraw. He may feel unappreciated for his leadership efforts or misunderstood when he tries to express love. Some men lean too far into authority and become controlling, while others lean too far into pleasing and lose their sense of direction. Neither extreme is healthy, and both can cause strain in a relationship. The key to balance is wisdom. A wise man understands that leadership is not about control, it is about service. True leadership is not about demanding respect, but earning it through integrity, love, and consistency. A wise woman in turn reassures her man that he does not have to choose between being strong and being loving. He can be both. She recognizes his efforts, speaks life into him, and helps him grow into the leader he is called to be. When a man learns to lead with love and love with leadership, he creates a foundation for a strong, lasting, and God-centered relationship. Ladies, I need you to hear me. Men are not perfect. They are not superheroes. They are human, just like you. But when a woman understands her man's weaknesses, she doesn't use them against him. She uses them to lift him up. Can you be a partner, not just a critic? Can you cover him in prayer instead of exposing his flaws? Can you help him fight his battles instead of becoming another battle in his life? Because a strong man and a wise woman together, that's a kingdom force the enemy can't touch.